Suck it.
This is the BAM Podcast with Malcolm Springer.
The BAM Podcast is brought to you by Hook Hats. Hook Hats are individually created and never duplicated. Hook Hats are custom, high-quality hats made in Franklin, Tennessee. Go to hookhats.com. For a discount on Hook Hats, type in the code 10, and that way he'll give you 10% discount from hearing that on our podcast.
Oh, yeah.
All right. There you go. You got to talk.
There we go. Come here now.
There you go.
Sound like a porn star. Sound like an announcer at a strip club. Destiny's about to take the main stage. She likes kittens, long walks on the beach, and holding hands with a loved one.
All right. We are here with Gary from the Jam Man.
The Jam Man.
The Jam Man, Gary, man. So how are you today?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
I see that you've given blood today.
I
still don't know the freaking logic behind that, but
well, my red blood cells get really high.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I don't know about any of that stuff. What do you mean red blood cells get high?
It's because the doctor injects me with a shit ton of male hormones, and
okay,
it caused me to produce more red blood cells than normal.
Testosterone?
Testosterone, yeah.
Man, I used to go low T center. I'm going to start going back pretty soon. Low T center is great for guys our age.
Mm-hmm.
You're the same age, and man, it makes you makes you want it really bad. Though. That's the bad part. You're like a 16-year-old kid.
Yeah.
Man.
The libido is on point.
I don't think our libido was ever hurting.
No, I don't think so either. But no, that's exactly where I go is low T, and some of the byproduct of it is sometimes your red blood cells get a little high, so you go and give some blood. I go about once every 6 weeks, and it gets everything back to normal.
Really? Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
See, I never did that.
Some people have problems with estrogen when they take it, and I'm not one of those people.
Me neither.
So
I never had.
It just depends on I have a brother. Well, I probably shouldn't say that on there, but no, I've got two, so no one knows which one I'm talking about. We'll strike that last one with the comments. But he had a problem with the estrogen sometimes.
Oh, really?
Thing off.
Yeah, man, that thing looks like you've been through the war or something, man.
Yeah, and it's not that bad.
Here, me take
a trash can over there somewhere.
Here you go, right over here. Woo!
Kobe.
Anyway, so man, I want to talk to you about your how you got started. The Jam is a place here in Berry Hill that thousands go through a weekend. I would think, wouldn't you?
Oh yeah, I'd say.
Man, I'm gonna tell you, when you first started, I went, because the last place that was there went down pretty quick.
I think there's 3 or 4 restaurants there before we were,
and they went down really quick.
A barbecue place, an Italian restaurant, and then the pie company.
Pie company went away real quick.
I think they made about a year and a half, maybe 2. I'm not sure.
Well,
we've been there for about 5 now.
I'm not talking bad about anybody's freaking pot pies, but they just wasn't that great. I mean, they wasn't very good, man.
I never had them, so I can't speak to whether they were great or not.
So here's what I love about you. We were talking yesterday at lunch, and we were talking about how you learned how to be a chef. And come on, tell the story how it all happened, because I'm super interested, because your place is becoming world renowned. Heck. Me and you were eating at your place yesterday, and there's a couple of girls from Malaysia that was there.
Kuala Lumpur.
Well, they were originally from Kansas City, Missouri, and then they moved to Malaysia because I guess she's a school teacher or something over there. That's what I gathered anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, tell us how you freaking got into the chef business and all that stuff like that.
Well, it started with the Jam first, so this is going to be kind of a long, drawn-out story.
No. We want to hear
I'll tell you
man.
the whole history of the whole thing.
Yeah, man. So, anything you don't want in here, we can always cut out.
2008, we were heading into recession, and stuff was looking pretty bad for me.
Right.
So I started getting pretty creative. The business I was in, I was making lots of money up until 2008, and then it was like somebody turned the faucet off. So I started scrambling, man. I'm like, what the hell am I going to do? So I read this article in some agricultural magazine that you could make 10 grand an acre growing specialty heirloom tomatoes. So I had a little hobby farm just east of town. I jumped on a damn tractor and started planting tomatoes.
Really? You told me that.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm not going to sit there and just watch everything die on the vine, pardon the pun, but like, I need to do something.
Right.
So me and my former wife were taking all of those tomatoes to farmers markets and stuff like that and selling them. But we grew so many tomatoes, more than we could actually sell. So we started making salsa first.
Okay.
My mom had this jar of strawberry jalapeno jam sitting on her counter at her house that she'd made. And I tried it. I said, man, that's really good. Give me a recipe. So I started making that and taking it to the farmers markets with us. And it started selling like wildfire. So I just started adding flavors.
Okay.
So we started taking them to every farmer's market. And then shortly thereafter, we were doing all this stuff out of our house. We grew into a commercial kitchen, and we're making all that stuff out of a commercial kitchen. And then we got a phone call. This is probably around 2014. We got a phone call. It was right after the Omni first opened up here. The Omni was our first big customer.
Really?
Omni Hotel. Yep. And then once we got some of those, I started going out and talking to some of the distributors, the Cisco's and the PFG's, the Fresh Points, Creation Gardens of the world, and got distribution to pick us up. And now we're selling jam by the gallon to hotels and restaurants all over the city and beyond.
So I guess my question is, do you still make the jam yourself?
I do. I mean, there's a team of us now, but I'm always present when we're doing it. That's why lots of times if you come to the restaurant, I'm not there. It's because I'm actually making jam. We don't make just jam. We make ketchups and mustards and barbecue sauces, not just for ourselves, but we do some for some pretty big names here in town, one of them being Old Red. We make all the barbecue sauces for all the Old Reds. It was their recipe. They gave it to me, and I make it for them now, so they don't have to do it in-house, and it's been a relationship worked out pretty good.
Wow, that's crazy, man. So how far out does your distribution go? I mean, how far out? I mean, I'm curious about this because I'm your friend, and I want to know.
So
I don't get to talk to you about
when it comes to like say with Old Red, they have locations in Florida. They have locations in Gatlinburg. They got a location opening later this year in Las Vegas.
Oh, wow.
They got one in Tishomingo, Oklahoma. I'm missing one somewhere along the line. But anyway, so like with that, Fresh Point is our central kind of distributor. You know what I mean? They've got a dock here, a house here, and then from there, everything goes out to everybody else.
So you're a full-fledged, bona fide freaking entrepreneur, that successful entrepreneur like crazy. Because I mean, because when you first started out down here, you didn't have a huge crowd, and like you told me, you said got on some kind of tourist website or something.
Yeah, the restaurant's definitely taken off in the last couple of years.
Oh my God, dude! You've had to expand out the front. You've had to expand the back. In the wintertime, you got to put up tents to put and warm up. Right. Man, I'm gonna take from the studio because I can see your place from here. I walk down there all the time. I love it, man. It's a freaking great vibe, because you would never believe though it took off like that. Now you got tents in the back, you got tables in the front, and most of the time you can't find a place to sit down. There's a line on the weekends.
No, it's crazy. Sometimes I look out the window and we got in trouble because the park across the street was filling up with cars.
I know.
It's like there was some kind of carnival going on here every freaking Saturday and Sunday,
right.
And so it just grew, and it was really organically. People are like, "What is your secret?" I'm like, "Hell, I don't know. Lucky, I guess."
Well, do you ever see? And this is a question I didn't talk to you about your stay at lunch. Do you see going national, like going into Kroger or some of these other bigger distributors like that? Do you ever see going that far?
So we have at one point. We were at all the Whole Foods and Southeast and Publix and
Really?
all of that kind of stuff. And then
So so their jam is there?
not now. There's another side to this story, and it's
Go ahead.
there was a wife involved, and
Well, we're going to talk about your divorce here in a
during
minute. I
the
can't
well,
wait
but
for
during
that.
but during COVID, we kind of shut down, and during that process, we lost a lot of that business. Somebody else came in and snacked, kind of got it away from us. So, I'm going to try to go back after some of it now.
I think this podcast is going to be really important because you're the first person of interest that we've had instead of somebody in the music business.
Right.
But how do you like it here in Berry Hill? I mean, do you like it here? I mean,
Yeah.
I go down there and I see the police hanging out all the time. I have lunch with Monster and the chief every once in a while.
It's like Mayberry.
It is like Mayberry.
This
here.
place, there's nothing else on it like Earth. I mean, it's crazy. It's like going to an amusement park or
It really is.
because
though,
it's surreal.
It is. It's like this is like you know what I call this place? I call this place the Shire. Like
Yeah,
the
the
Lords of the
Shire,
Rings.
because
It's the
there's nothing.
Shire.
It's nothing else exists. Just the music history in this 1 square mile, 2 square miles.
It's unreal.
There's 100 recording studios and everything happens right here.
Yeah.
And then everybody is still the police have inside of Davidson County we've got our own police force inside of Nashville that if you call the police they'll be there in 30 seconds.
yeah, they're outside the door anyway.
I live in Nashville, got my car stolen. They didn't show for 3 days.
Yeah, well, you know what's funny is I've when I first moved here, okay, Pops he owned this place, and it's funny, Gary Bells, he owned this whole down here, and when I got back here after so many years, because I'd left, Pops, I told him, I said, Pops, you know what's great is this is the lowest crime rate in America. He goes, well, now that you moved in, it ain't. It was until you moved in.
I think it still is,
I think it is. I think it's.
I've never had a problem over there. Hell, I leave tons of beer sitting outside in coolers unlocked, and nobody ever stops and takes anything. I probably shouldn't be doing this on podcast. Now we're gonna have a problem. I just invited everybody.
Come on over and get some free beer at night. But you know what's crazy is there's cameras everywhere.
Right.
Even I would say Universal's cameras probably reach down that far.
Well, and I've got cameras too.
And just nobody bothers it around here. We've left stuff out back here, and well, I ain't gonna say, but there's stuff that we leave out still, and nobody ever bothers. I got a cooler back here; it's always full of something. You know what I mean? From a party that I had or whatever. Nobody ever bothers it. And Berry Hill is a great place to be.
It is a great place to be. I love it.
I methat sounded kind of weird, didn't it? Well, Berry Hill waste.
No, but really it is. And I think right now we're gonna be a big hit in Berry Hill with the local politicians even more because they're really trying to do stuff to bring people in to see this area because there's a lot of people who don't know that it exists.
Well, I think they're putting an amphitheater out front in the park.
They're
going to,
right? Well, they're going to try to do something so we can have some live music over here sometimes. I don't know, like some kind of clamshell or something where they can.
I'm worried about that because of the sessions, that we have, and it's like that's the only thing. There was a live band over here across the street, over there behind Westlake Audio, and they started freaking cranking up in the middle of the day.
Oh, I heard them.
Well, I was like, listen, this is a studio. This is a studio. This is like a little studio town. There's
Studio-rich environment.
well, and the thing about it, what makes me mad is when people drive through here that are not involved with the studio or coming to see somebody at the studio because they have no business. They do cut through down here. But anyway, that's all. Not everybody's interested in that. So,
right.
But now here's what's great. We're going to have you do some recipes for us, or we're going to do shrimp and grits. I think for the podcast. And then I wanted to get you on here maybe once a month so we could do a recipe for everybody.
I'd love to do that.
Man, you talking about funny and great for everybody.
I'm going to bring my assistants.
Yeah. So here I was down here, and I went down there to see Gary, and I sat down with him. He goes, man, I think I'm going to get a divorce. He looked down the dumps, man. He looked down the dumps. I was like, man, I'm worried about him. Telling everybody, man, I'm worried about Gary, man. His old lady, this, that, and the other. And then about 2 weeks later, I go down there. He's like, man, what's up, dude? What's going on? I'm like, what's the deal? He goes, oh, man, things are great, man. I've been partying my ass off. I was like, wow, he got over that pretty quick. Let us know about how you handle it, man, if it's okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He said yesterday, he goes, I'm an open book,
baby.
About men who wind up with rotten women and how to handle that and how to handle how you handled your situation. And I'm not going to say that just for you to tell. But how did you get over it so quick?
Well, man, it wasn't. I don't know that it was really quick. I don't know if it's quick, but I drank enough and partied enough and hung out with some other people enough that I just once I found out that she was having an affair and I filed for divorce and put that behind me, I just wanted to put as much space between me and her as possible.
Right.
Now it worked out really in the beginning because of the way she chose to live her life. She moved into a hotel that I had to foot the bill for, and it wasn't like moved into the airport Marriott at $200 a day or something, and she's living at the Marriott, and I'm paying for it.
Right.
Well, the judge didn't like the fact that she moved into a hotel, so I ended up with full custody of my children.
That's awesome.
So I had them 5 days a week, and she'd get them on the weekends, and it worked out really well because I got to work all week. My kids went with their mother on the weekends. I got the restaurant down there, so I could be around there on the Saturday and Sunday days.
Right.
But damn, I got to tear it up on Friday and Saturday night because I didn't have any kids, man. And it was, hell yeah, it was fun. I'd been sewn up for 13 years.
But
and good God, we were just talking at the start of this, talking about the low T center. Well, man, I was on that man juice and out there on the prowl, and holy man. I tell you what, it was last summer was a lot of fun. I can't go into details because I'm still going through some of that divorce. I don't want to end up in a courtroom, but that was why. It's some shit that hadn't happened since I was in my 20s.
So, because I remember the conversation, I went, now Gary, this could be a good thing. This could be a good thing. I mean, this divorce thing might be in the area. Because I know my last divorce, I shouldn't have said last. Okay, cut. Here we go. My divorce, man. This is why I wanted to do this with you because this is hilarious. Okay. Man, when I got to that point where I was just like, all right, it's on. I had a blast, man. I went crazy. I went crazier than batshit. I had a freaking blast. But I did some things I shouldn't have done. I admit that. But, man, I got my freaking revenge, man. I'll tell you that right now. I did what I needed to do to freaking make myself feel better. And it was months after that before Tiffany came along. And I was like, okay, I'm going to settle down with this one because this one has sense. And she's like nothing like what everybody in my hometown said. And I went, well, dang, this girl's got something to her. And she had a lot of heart and substance and shit that I needed,
Right.
And settled me down where the others didn't have any heart or substance at all, was all just we call it was just surface level stuff. But deep down, it was like a me thing. But anyway, so you had fun last summer.
I had fun last summer, and then towards the end of the summer, I kind of did the same thing. I met a girl who's kind of grounded and moves a little slower than I was moving last summer, and kind of helped me. Turn it down a little bit. Yeah, because I turned it up and tore the knob off.
Oh, I know. I saw you.
She found the knob and put it back on and cranked it back down a little bit. It's good she found the knob because if I kept going at that speed.
Nice to be our age, though, and still feel alive.
Well, here's the thing. You got to, after that, because, you're talking about 13 years, kids involved. So it's devastating,
Right.
You say it can gut you emotionally. And you got to have something to fill up that space and put some distance between you and her. And then start to see, man, you know what? There is life after divorce, and a whole hell of a lot of it.
A lot of divorce, a lot of life after divorce. Because let me tell you, and the thing about it is with me, it was my father-in-law sitting there telling me I'm over at his house and trying to freaking put things in perspective, and he looks at me and goes, Malcolm, let me just tell you what the best thing in life is: a replacement. Just find you a replacement. He goes, because there's nothing like a replacement, which I didn't want to jump from one woman to the other, so I gave it some time. I lived here by myself in the studio, and because I wanted to see, for me, it was why did I lose everything in the world for this particular piece of being an artist that no one appreciates? Because when it comes, there it goes, saying that word again. Well, because when it comes to being a producer, there's these things you have in mind when you're young, like the fame, the glory, the awards, the things, and the money and all this, and then of course, I'd be a really wealthy man if I had never gotten married to begin with. But because with that, did your divorce cause a lot of freaking financial problems at all, or did you nip it in the bud pretty quick?
Oh no, I mean it's ongoing.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, I mean that's the part that continues to make you mad even after it's over.
Right.
You can cut your ties with somebody, but then you look back at financial wounds or whatever left behind. You wake up in the morning like, I can't believe I did this to myself. You know what I mean?
Okay, let's pull away from the divorce thing, man.
That's good.
That was good. That was good enough. Let me tell you, we got to do Gary on divorce, the headlines of the short span. I tell you that we got to put that sumbitch out tomorrow. Oh, here I go. I'm trying to stop cussing on here so much because I'm trying to make it where, my friends that don't, you know what I mean? Because I got people I want to be on here, like Brett Manning, people like that. He's not going to be on some podcast. I'm sitting here, and all this stuff, But anyway, man, it's like, we never did get down to where you learned how to be a chef, though. Was your grandmother, as you told me, was your grandmother inspired all that?
Yeah, my grandmother and my mother both really. Give a lot of credit to my grandmother because she's just an old Southern fantastic cook, man, who just spent time and always in the kitchen, was always in the kitchen cooking something. You know what I mean? It seemed like every day. And I'd come home from school when I was a little kid, man, and, I'd stand there next to her and watch her. And, man, I really took a liking to it at a young age. I'd come home from school and bake a pie. You know what I mean?
Are you serious?
Yeah. I'd be like, come inside from playing football with my brother and be like, you know what? I'm gonna bake a pie.
That's awesome, man.
And, back then, I don't know if they thought I was going to turn out right or not.
What's right? What's wrong?
Right. Yeah. We got to be careful what I say now.
Well, the thing about it is what's right, what's wrong has changed since me and you grew up, and in the 80s, and it's like things are just different.
It's different. It is different.
It is different, man. I don't put any thought to anything like that, because it's like it ain't my deal.
I don't have a dog in the hunt, so I don't care.
I don't either.
You know what I mean? I really don't.
No, I got people I love that are, and it's like I try to be, man, the whole thing about it is what it really matters is love,
Right.
Loving people, man, for who they are. And it's like, I learned a while back that, man, love people for who they are. And if you don't agree with what they do, don't hang out with them. And, or if you can't handle it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But just love them for who they are. Believe me, I've been through all that this past week in my mind. I've been having some trouble here in the music business, and it's like there's no need in all that. It's like it wasn't that big of a deal, but it turns into a big deal, and you know how it is. But anyway, we're not here to talk about me. I want to hear more about your grandmother. What was one of the biggest things that she taught you how to cook?
Oh well, one of my favorite things that's really simple, but she used to make these brown sugar pies. And, man, it is nothing but brown sugar and butter and milk. And, I mean, it is so rich, but it's so good. You know what I mean? It's so rich. I mean, make your face pucker up. It's so sweet.
I got to get that recipe.
But, man, and then that with a glass of milk.
Oh, my God.
Man, you know what I mean? But she was, the addition of adding fat back or salt pork or bacon or whatever people want to call it.
Do you still use fat back?
Oh man, shoot, yeah. If I don't put some kind of fatty pork in some type of vegetable, that's the thing is it's hard to be a vegetarian eating my restaurant because we still put meat in all the vegetables.
Right. Well, I mean,
we got some things that don't, but I mean, it's as far as Southern food, that's part of its identity. You know what I mean?
Oh, and by the way, I wanted to tell you. Remember, I said that I was going because remember I came over there and ate a burger without bread yesterday. Didn't eat any bread yesterday and the day before, and this morning I was fine and dandy. No inflammation at all.
That's fantastic.
So I'm allergic to bread. I've become allergic to bread somehow. Now, do you have like the keto thing at your place that people can order?
Well, you can do it, as long as you know what you're wanting to do.
Am I saying that right? Keto? Okay. I used to think keto was a hoya. I thought that was keto. You know what I mean? Somebody said keto diet. I went, well, what the hell is that? What do you do? Go out and karate chop cows or something?
Keto's just a cutting out of bread and sugar, pretty much, isn't it?
Yeah. The one thing I did go eat. I had dinner last night with Jason Bowl, the drummer for Rick Monroe, which he's becoming more and more of a famous drummer. He's also helped me on the tantric stuff that I'm doing. Helped on the Josie Scott stuff that I did. He's played on every record. He moved here from Seattle to play on the record. Well, anyway, we went out to eat sushi last night, and I had some rice, and I know that's mainly sugar, isn't it? Isn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's sugar. It's a carbohydrate, yeah.
But, man, I woke up this morning, man, and felt
But
great.
it's not bread. So the thing is, you might have a gluten allergy, and that's what gives you the inflammation. So the rice isn't going to do that because there's not the gluten in the rice. You know what I mean?
Too many people tell me that, man. I just hate to sound like one of those people. I'm a gluten-free person. You know what I'm saying? I'm sorry. I hope I didn't offend anybody.
That was part of our generation. What the hell are you talking about?
Okay.
I can do whatever the hell I want.
I have to admit, gluten. What I thought I thought gluten was somebody who ate too damn much. Oh, that's a glutton. Gluten, well, hell, I can't take the gluten out of her big. If I took the gluten out of herself, she wouldn't have any.
She's not allergic to gluten. She is a gluten. Oh my God!
I've got a few people. I got a few people I could definitely point out, but it ain't, you know what I mean? It's like
I call it biscuit poisoning.
Biscuit poisoning.
Yeah, unless you got biscuit poisoning.
Man, you done ate too many
biscuits.
You remember that Eddie Murphy movie, man, where he says, "You 12 sandwich eating." I know where it comes from now. It comes from gluten, man. She's a gluten for punishment.
She is a gluten. I'm a gluten for punishment. I know that.
No, but you know when they start this gluten-free thing, I was like, man, okay, look here. This has to be a political stance of some kind. I'm not kidding. It's like
I thought the same thing. Man, I had people who come in and say, "I'm gluten free." I'm like, "Are you celiac? Or you really have gluten intolerance? Do you have a gluten intolerance, an allergy, or you just don't want to eat gluten?" Some people, it was a trendy thing. I actually have a niece who's got celiac disease. She cannot have gluten at all, so it's a real deal.
But how do you take the gluten out of something?
Well, I guess
you
just
have a gluten fairy that puts his hand over it and says gluten.
Well, it's just mainly wheat products. You know what I mean? You can't have wheat products. So
okay,
that's where it comes from. Is the wheat? You can't drink beer because of the wheat in the beer. You can't eat bread because of the wheat in the bread. You can't have any kind of flour. But there is gluten-free flour. There is
really.
The reason the gluten in the wheat is what gives it its stretchiness and pliability and makes. That's why when gluten-free stuff first came out, man, it's like, oh wow, that's a really good tasting piece of brick you have there.
Wow.
It didn't have the same kind of texture that bread with gluten had.
So if I take out most of my bread, that's going to take out most of the gluten, right? What else? I mean, would I have to take out of my diet to?
Well, anything with wheat products in it. So donuts.
Oh man, are you serious?
Yeah.
No more Sunday donuts.
I mean, pastries, just pastries, bread, all of it.
Wow. So what about eggs? Is eggs fine?
No, eggs are fine.
Eggs are fine, and they don't have to be farm raised or anything, do they?
No.
So, do you believe in that whole farm raised egg thing, or are you into the?
As far as I know, all eggs are raised on some type of farm somewhere.
Well, I'm saying though, the ones that aren't bleached. You never know these days. They may be manufacturing eggs. I mean, shit. At this point, you don't have a clue.
They can be born in test tube.
Yeah,
test tube
eggs, man. We lowered the price. No, they're gonna raise the price because it's test tube egg because now it's better for you. So, back in the day, when they did this whole vegetable routine on us when we were kids, and everybody knows it was born around our time, especially my friends are going to get a kick out of this, that that the whole vegetable thing was actually saying vegetables are great for you, was actually a marketing scheme to get the vegetable industry to get more sales. And it wasn't real. Like I've been told, hey, man, if you eat a banana, you're done for the day. That's it. I mean, there's so much sugar in a banana. Well, nobody told us that. Nobody told us. Now, I don't know about tomatoes and all that stuff. And, I want to ask you on here. This is a good question. Do you use hothouse tomatoes?
It depends.
Okay, because the big deal with my grandmother was don't eat hothouse vegetables. In other words, just farm-raised vegetables. But we lived on a farm, so it was easy for her to say. But
so what happens is throughout the summer months, starting as early as probably May, you're getting real kind of homegrown or field-grown tomatoes because of the climate in this country.
Right.
But when you get in the winter months,
don't have a choice.
Yeah, you don't have a choice, and that's, you can tell the difference. The tomatoes this time of year from everywhere taste better.
Right.
But it's the ones in the wintertime that are grown in hoop houses and kind of in greenhouses, basically big
right.
hoop houses.
Do you still do salsa? Do you still make salsa?
I don't anymore myself. No.
Okay.
I do. I do occasionally, but not commercially really anymore.
Okay, and I have to ask this because this is something that's been on my mind for a while. I wanted to ask you, but I never have had a chance to ask you personally, or when we were just out here hanging out and partying. Do your habanero stuff? Your habanero, because I got some habanero peach, I think.
Yeah, peach habanero. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I got some peach habanero, and how does that work, man? I mean, do you boil the? I mean, I'm just curious. I've got to ask. I mean, do you actually put habaneros? I know it's a hot freaking jam. It's a hot jam. There's a strawberry habanero too.
Strawberry jalapeno.
Oh, jalapeno.
And we have another 6-pepper jelly that has habaneros in it too. But they're fresh habaneros. They came right off the vine.
Really?
And basically all that happens is the peaches and the habaneros get put into a 40 or 100-gallon kettle, right?
Okay.
We got a big immersion blender that somebody's standing there and chopping all that stuff up.
Right.
And then there's a great big agitator that goes down in that kettle and spins, so it keeps everything mixing up while somebody's grinding it up, So it's all ground up together. And then as it heats up, it gets a little softer and easier to grind. And then we add sugar. We had pectin first, and then we add sugar, and that's the end of it, man. We start putting it in jars, and it's piped out of the bottom of those kettles. There's a valve that we open that has a hose on it, and that hose runs over to a filler, and it pumps. It's a pneumatic filler. And during that,
here comes
what happens is there's somebody actually physically standing there. There'll be a big tray of glass on one side of jars.
Right.
There's a person that grabs a jar and puts it in this hand. And it says, and fills it. Then they take it, and there's another person standing next to them that puts a cap on. They put that on a conveyor belt. It runs down a conveyor and it sprays a date code on the top. So we know if something was ever to happen, so we have to log all of the information of all of the ingredients that goes into that jam. So
Right.
say we got a batch of sugar that had some kind of poison in it from the manufacturer.
Right.
We log all of that information so that if we get a recall from the FDA, we can go back and look and see, hey, this bad sugar went in this batch of jam, so we can do a recall.
Wow, that's, man, I'm sorry.
And there's a lot of people that don't even know that there's, that kind of stuff goes into it. And then after it gets a date code sprayed on it, it goes around a corner on a cart and puts on another conveyor belt, and it goes down that conveyor, and the labels are going whoosh, whoosh, whoosh.
Don't you think that's interesting? That's so interesting.
And then at the end of that is a collection table, and that's where all the jam goes down and spins, and there's somebody down there at the end putting all of it in boxes.
But what about the labels and stuff?
So the labels go on automatic. There's a machine. It goes down a conveyor
Machine
belt.
does it? Okay, okay. Okay, so you got a freaking factory.
Yeah, it's a factory. It's a jam factory.
Okay, here's the question that I know all the listeners are going to want to know. What is the difference between jam and jelly?
Well, I'd like to tell you what the joke is, but I can't do that on air. I can't jelly. No, the difference is, so jam is whole fruit that is ground, right?
Right.
And put into with
Whole fruit.
Whole fruit. So you got the whole fruit. Jelly is just fruit juice. So there's not any actual pulp or fruit in jelly. So you could take, let's just use a generic grape juice or some, you can take that and turn that into jelly, right?
Really?
Yes. Jam has to have whole fruit in it that is crushed, so it's actually, you're actually getting fruit. There's servings of
real
fruit, right?
It's not flavoring.
It's not fruit flavor, right? Exactly. It's real fruit.
Wow, that's so interesting.
And so, in our jam and jelly, or not jelly, the only jelly we do is not even really a jelly; it's a pepper jelly. We just call it jelly because it's what everybody else calls it. It really, I guess, is a pepper jam. But so in our jams, it's strawberries.
I'm sorry.
Lemon juice, sugar. That's
lemon
it.
juice.
We put lemon juice in everything.
Really? Lemon juice. Is that from real lemons?
From real lemons.
From real lemons.
Real lemons. Not the fake stuff. Real lemon juice.
Well, okay. I got to go back to the habanero.
Okay.
So these are real habanero peppers that go into the jam.
Right.
With like the peach habanero. Mm-hmm. It's the peaches and the habanero go in there, and then they're crushed up, and then they go down this line, and then the guy puts it in. Okay, we know about that. So, wow, that's just crazy. So, how did you? Well, we won't get on because the salsa thing really intrigues me because my mother makes some amazing salsa, and I think we need to sell it. I think it's just great. I think it's pretty. Man, give me a jar. This big, it don't last but one night. That's the problem with it. There's never enough, It's almost like, when I used to do back in the day, there's never enough. It's like, there's never enough. You can buy as much as you want. You can buy a freaking case of that shit, but it ain't going to last you.
You want to clone something? Let's clone this.
But no, seriously, though, I'm just wondering, the whole entire thing with how you got started. Did you have to do it all by hand before? I mean,
yeah, it was very hands-on. And here's the thing. I'm glad you segued into this because this is something I do a lot of this stuff for other people. So if you want to make your grandmother's salsa recipe come to life, the dream come alive and see it on a grocery store shelf someday, that's something I can do for you. So I do that for lots of people. I take a product. In fact, you say, your phone's blowing up. It was actually for a barbecue sauce that I made for somebody else. Like, can you get me a spec sheet on this? I've got a grocery store that wants to buy it.
Wow, that's awesome, man.
Yeah, so we do that kind of thing. And I really like doing that because you get to work with somebody and watching somebody so excited about them getting to have this product to take to the world. But but there's a lot of stuff that's, most people don't have the time just to stop what they're doing to focus on salsa. You know what I mean?
Right.
And still survive. So I have the education, the tools, the ability to take that with a fairly minimal cost and get them started in food manufacturing.
Man, I'm gonna have to take you up on that one. I'll get the recipe maybe one of these days. And but see, that's the thing. So they give you the recipe or show you how they make it, and then you put it into assembly.
So what I do is sometimes we have to get it right. For something to go on a store shelf, it has to be shelf stable. There has to be some parameters there to make sure that it's not going to spoil, that the pHs are certain levels. So we test all of that stuff, and then sometimes the base recipe is perfect. There is no need to adjust anything. Right. Sometimes I have to make some recommendations that, you know what, we need to add some lemon juice or some vinegar because we need to get that pH a little bit lower. You know what I mean? So that these things, you can't put anything in a can that has a pH greater than 4.5 or in a jar. You can if it's pressure canned. So like your green beans and stuff like that go through very high pressure canning process.
And can you do the canning, high pressure canning?
We don't do that because it destroys, like a salsa like that, this high pressure canned at high temperature, it would completely destroy what you're trying to achieve because it would become mush.
Oh.
Like at those temperatures and pressure. You know what I mean?
Well, when I say pressure, man, I don't know what I'm talking about. That's why
Right.
you're on here, because I wanted to hear what your thing was. So, but that's not, when you say pressure, that's not heating up the actual jars.
It's heating them up, but it's actually under pressure too. There's pressure, and the reason you do that is anything that has a low or a high pH rather can facilitate the growth of botulism. So it takes an anaerobic environment and a low pH, and that's where you can get botulism. The only way to destroy that
botulism, explain what that is.
So botulism is a microbe that sporulates underneath in conditions of a high pH, being above 4.5, and then also in an anaerobic environment. So it creates a toxin. That's what women shoot into their face to get rid of wrinkles. That's what Botox comes from.
Are you serious?
Yeah, dead serious. If you drink that or eat that, what happens is a very terrible death. Just like it, paralyzes the muscles in your forehead. After you drink something or eat something that has the botulism toxin in it, the first thing that goes is you start to not be able to swallow.
So this is poison.
This is poison. It's toxin, so you start not to be able to swallow. And then you start to see your face start to sag, right? Now you can't tell people what's wrong with you because your tongue is paralyzed too, right? So this is a terrible death. You know how you die? Once it makes it to your diaphragm, you lose the ability to breathe. So you suffocate while your mind is still fully operational.
Oh my God!
So it's like drowning while you're awake. So that's why there's a big it's a big no in food.
Okay. So we know not to do that.
Right.
So, but does the FDA ever come and check you up
Oh,
on
yeah.
you? Do they inspect your kitchen and all that stuff?
Yeah, so it's a lot.
Does Nashville do that?
No, Nashville doesn't do that. So I'm governed by two bodies, the Tennessee Department of Agriculture and the FDA. So the Tennessee Department of Agriculture comes once or twice a year. They're a little bit short-staffed right now, so I think they're going to come every 18 months. Right? Now the FDA is a lottery, right? Anybody in the food manufacturing business, yes, it's a lottery system. I got drawn 2 years in a row for FDA inspections, and I was like, man, I'm so lucky. I should go play the lottery because I don't know why I'm so lucky. Especially because I'm not one of the big guys. There are people that manufacture 100 times more than I do.
Right.
But I got drawn twice in a row, and everything's fine. Passed the flying colors. There was no negative remarks.
Right.
So it was good.
Right. Well, so where is this factory located? Because I didn't know this, and I've been your friend for a while.
It's in Lebanon, Tennessee.
Lebanon, Tennessee. So it's just a place that you bought and then turned into a factory.
Right. Well, there's another guy, a couple people in there that use it with me. So it's like a cooperative of food manufacturers.
Wow, it's so interesting, man. That's so interesting stuff. So, man, I mean, that's more interesting to me than to talk to you about freaking aliens and Bigfoot because I think that people don't understand how things get to the market, and they don't understand. But let me ask you something. What about these independent people that do go to market? Let's say they start out with the salsa, and how much should you trust that as a consumer? I mean, do you think that's a bad thing to trust? I mean,
Well, it depends on the product itself. So there's some things that are safer than others. There's two categories, really, or three, but one of them is acidified foods.
right?
So acidified foods mean you're starting with something that has a high pH, and you're going to add an acidulant, either vinegar or lemon juice or lime juice, or some type of acidulant to drop the pH so that it's below the 4.5 and the botulism can't sporulate, and that anything below a 4.5. Those are the ones that are a little quite like pickles, homemade pickles at a farmer's market. That's shit I would never buy in a million years.
Oh, really?
No, because without testing, so what we do is, so if I'm making pickles at the factory or something like that,
Right.
we have to, there's a 2541A is what you call it. You fill this out, you send it to the government, they approve your, because acidified foods have to be registered with the
And
government.
that's anything with vinegar in it and what?
Not anything with vinegar. It's whatever the base ingredient is. So like cucumbers have a really high pH, right?
Right.
They're neutral, you know. So you have to add a lot of vinegar or something to them to bring that pH down.
Oh,
Right.
Okay.
So if you start with something that's got a high base pH, that becomes an acidified food product. If you're starting with something that's already below the threshold, like say berries, strawberries, blackberries, they're very acidic by themselves. You don't have to worry about adding
right.
any kind of acidulant to them much. But it's the stuff that like that pickled okra, pickled eggs.
So don't buy anything pickled from a farmer's market.
Yeah, pickled, and I mean, you know, tomatoes are one that are on the cusp of being. Their pH is usually somewhere around that 4.5, 4.2, 4.7. So they're right on the edge. Tomatillos and green tomatoes, their pH is a little bit lower, so they're a little safer. Pickles, which are cucumbers, they're not acidic at all. So those are the things you have to be careful of. And that's why when you start doing acidified foods, they have to be registered with the federal government. The government gets our recipe on acidified foods and approves it, right?
Right.
And then what we do, how you test this? So you would take, let's say pickles, right?
Right.
We're making a test batch of pickles with our recipe. And we're going to set them on the shelf, let them sit there for a day or two. Then we're going to pour that right into a blender and turn it into just mush.
Yeah.
Then we're going to take the pH of that mush and see what the pH is. If the pH is below that threshold, then we're fine to market it. If it's above that, then we need to add some more vinegar or something else that's going to drop that pH.
Okay, let me. Because I used to be a lifeguard at a swimming pool, and how we got the pH down in the swimming pool was we put bleach in it, and we put what else did we put in it? Soda ash. Okay, so I got to understand, and I'm sorry if I wasn't prepared for this part of the podcast.
Right.
To be honest with you, I thought we'd be sitting here ragging on a lot of other things and talking about aliens and Bigfoot, but this is amazing because I think this is a great one. How when you say pH, like in the swim pool, it was a high chlorine type of water atmosphere, and then we poured a ton of bleach in it, then soda ash in it. When you say pH, because like when you have a high pH in your body, you have heartburn and stuff like that. And is this you add baking soda to get the pH down? I mean, or is it
No? So you start with the, if we're gonna get the pH down, so you got to think about pH in reverse terms. The lower the pH, the more acidic. So something that is a 3.5 pH is 10 times more acidic than something that's a 4.5.
okay?
So like a swim, like tap.
Oh wow, that's interesting.
So every point is 10 times more acidic than the point before it, right? So if like a swimming pool or drinking water, your drinking water that comes out of the tap is usually around a 7. It's neutral, right?
Right.
So it's really, 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 really high pH. So it's kind of it's a base. When we're talking about canned food, we're looking at stuff that's 4.5 and below, right?
Right.
So it's pretty acidic. People say, well, won't that give me heartburn? Well, the pH of your stomach is super, super low. It's dissolving things. Now you can eat certain things that cause your stomach to produce more acid. It's not generally the food that you eat that is acidic that causes the problems. It's the food that you eat stimulates you making acid that causes you to have the problems. Like lots of times onions and tomatoes will cause your proton pumps to be overactive in your stomach. And that's where you get the acid from. And that's why they give you the Prilosec and those things, because it's proton pump inhibitors. So you don't make acid in your stomach. You're not making the acid that would give you, from the reaction to whatever the food is that you're eating.
So you say for people to stay away from tomatoes if you have heartburn.
Sometimes it depends on the person. Sometimes cucumbers, which are super. Here's funny thing about that: cucumbers are super, super, super low or super, super, super high pH, but they give you heartburn like crazy. They should neutralize it, right?
Right.
But whatever your body's reaction to, how it has to break that down, determines how much acid it's going to produce in your stomach. So some like onions. Really hard, I guess, for the body to break down. That's why onions give people heartburn sometimes.
Right. Well, it's just funny because chocolate gives me heartburn.
Does it? Well, lots of things give me heartburn, especially if I had any barley pops or anything to drink.
So I'm trying this whole no bread, no thing. Now I'm going to have a tough time with heartburn, ain't I?
I don't know. Maybe not.
There's nothing to soak up the acid. Is that true? Or is that...
I don't know. I think it's probably...
Okay, because you hear all kinds of things, and people say all kinds of things, and they have these diets that they look at, and I look at some of these diets, and they don't look very healthy to me. Jordan Peterson, he just eats steak. That's it. He don't eat any vegetables at all. Zero. He just eats pure steak every single meal. I can't see that being a healthy thing to do. There's too many other vitamins that, I don't know if he takes supplements or whatever. That's just a weird thing to me, but I think because he's allergic to so many vegetables, he found out from his daughter getting sick. And I mean, what do you feel about these keto diets and stuff like that? What do you think about that? And y'all don't really y'all just have this good old country cooking at your place.
Yeah, I mean, you can make anything keto down there if you wanted to. If you just cut out whatever the sugars are, you can ask and we can make it, something that was keto friendly or gluten intolerant friendly. You can ask us, but it's a case by case kind of a thing.
Is the Bourbon Street omelet gluten-free?
Yes, it is.
Wow, that's my favorite thing at the restaurant.
Yes, it is.
But now if I order
a biscuit with it, it's not.
Yeah, biscuit would kind of
or toast. It's not. Potatoes and the grits, they both have a little bit of gluten in them.
So the shrimp and grits that you're going to show us how to make is not gluten-free.
Well, it can be. There's something I add to the grits that contains gluten. And I usually add chicken base, and that is part of that ingredient has wheat in it. So,
okay.
So that would be, and if it was somebody that was just trying to avoid gluten, probably wouldn't notice. If you cut out the majority of the gluten in your diet, if you're gluten intolerant, it's one thing. If you occasionally have something that has gluten as an ingredient way on down the ingredient panel, you're probably okay.
Okay.
If you're not as soon as you eat a piece of bread, you're not shitting your brains out.
Right, I'm not doing that. I mean? I'm not doing that.
If it's causing
inflammation,
things like that, maybe just staying away from eating too much of it. You might not even notice if you had gluten in something, at a restaurant, if it was just an ingredient way on down the ingredient panel in something that you were eating. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because it's not going to be a large portion of whatever that was.
I got you. So in small portions, it's probably like
or just in a small percentage of that actual that dish has got a tiny bit of gluten in it. Maybe.
So interesting to me. It's so because right now, I'm a guy that's like I haven't been able to work out because of some of the things been going on with me, and I'm trying to find a diet, and then you hear these people talking about hoo-yah, keto. And then, I mean, so, it's like, I hope I didn't offend anybody.
I was just thinking soy sauce.
Oh, I would say
That's not gluten-free.
That's not gluten-free.
No.
Soy sauce is not gluten-free.
No, they do make a gluten-free version, but soy sauce is not gluten-free.
So if I ate raw fish sushi all the time, that'd be gluten-free.
Yeah, without the soy sauce.
Without the soy sauce. Man, no one wants to do that.
No, but just ask them for the gluten-free soy sauce.
So my opinion about sushi is the sodium intake,
right,
and sugar intake is like so high, it's unreal. And actually, last night you'd be proud of me. I actually I drank a bottle of sake, and I never drink. And then she's laughing at me. Of course, my old lady's laughing at me all the way home because she's like, "You got a buzz, you got a buzz, you got a buzz." I'm like, "Yeah, I got a buzz," But because I never drink, so it's like I say never. Every once in a while, you'll see me walking around party with a beer in my hand, but I'm a big drinker. Maybe we will this afternoon on the boat or something.
Right. That's what I'm talking about.
Well, man, maybe we should dive into some vegetables on the boat. Like mushroom. Is mushroom a vegetable or is that a
mushroom? That's a fungus.
That's a fungus.
The fungus of the fungus are among us. So there's lots of varieties of mushrooms out there. You can cook with.
Right.
Shiitakes are some of my favorite mushrooms.
Shiitake
mushrooms.
So I've never even had a shiitake mushroom.
Yeah, if you had some Japanese food, you've had shiitake mushrooms. You can get, if you've had any kind of soup or broth that they have, you're going to have shiitake mushrooms in it.
Shiitake.
Shiitake.
Is that where it's from? Was that
No, that's just a variety of mushroom.
Okay, I didn't know. Jeez, you can't keep up with everything these days. You never know.
Yep.
It might be from. No, actually, they're grown in Switzerland.
Lion's mane mushrooms and portobellas and all the little white button and the psilocybin mushrooms and.
So let me ask you just about some of your ingredients and the things. So you don't have to use farm raised eggs. Well, what about the cheeses that you use? I mean, do you get those from Wisconsin?
That's a really good question. I think that they would come. I would think that a lot of them come from up there just because that's
okay. So there's no difference. There's no particular distributor that you use.
No, I they change stuff sometimes on you all the time. We use a gluten. Not gluten. We use. There's three cheeses that we really use down there: Gouda, cheddar, and mozzarella. And all of those things go in different stuff, but the cheddar we use to make pimento cheese. That's pimento cheese and cream cheese, and our pimento cheese to die for.
It is, man. I gotta admit, man.
It's pretty.
Kind of makes you mad when you now you're making me hungry.
Right.
Jeez. Yeah. You start talking about food. You start talking about that. I go, oh, that's a pretty good one. But well, man. I think we've had a good podcast.
I think we have too.
Boy, it's so awesome to have you on here. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you for having me.
I think this is a great podcast.
I'm just glad somebody thinks I'm a person of interest, and it's not a criminal way.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching the BAM podcast. Hey, hit that subscribe button. Hit the subscribe button because we need you to subscribe, and you're going to get a recipe from this man every single month, at least one recipe. You never know, maybe two. All right, thank you, Gary. Thank you for coming down, man.